Millionaire took his single-mom neighbor to a gala. Her witty reply to his ex-wife stunned everyone. The crystal chandeliers of the grand ballroom sparkled overhead as Olivia Bennet stood frozen in her borrowed gown, champagne flute clutched in white-knuckled fingers. Across from her, Victoria Harrington, ex-wife of the man who had brought Olivia to this charity gala, smiled with practiced venom. "So tell me," Victoria purred loudly enough for nearby guests to hear, "how exactly does a single mother from the wrong side of town end up on the arm of one of the city's most eligible bachelors? I'm simply dying to know your technique." The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for Olivia to crumble under the humiliation. Instead, she smiled, delivering 7 words that would not only silence Victoria, but change the trajectory of her relationship with millionaire architect James Harrington forever. "The same way you lost him. Authenticity." If you're already feeling the tension of this unexpected confrontation and wondering how a struggling single mother and a wealthy architect found themselves at this pivotal moment, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories about unlikely connections, second chances, and the moments that remind us that true worth has nothing to do with net worth. 3 months earlier, Olivia Bennet had been having the Monday from hell. At 32, the single mother of 7-year-old Lily had mastered the art of crisis management, but today was testing even her considerable skills. Her ancient car had finally given up the ghost halfway to her daughter's school. Her boss at the bookstore had called to cut her hours due to slow sales, and now the elevator in her apartment building was out of order, again. "Come on, Lilybug," she encouraged her daughter as they began the climb to their 6th-floor apartment. "I'll race you." Lily, a small girl with her mother's chestnut curls and a perpetually curious expression, looked skeptical. "You always say that when you want me not to complain about the stairs." Olivia laughed despite her exhaustion. "Busted by a 2nd grader. Fine, no race. But I'll make your favorite mac and cheese when we get home. With the crunchy stuff on top? Is there any other way?" Their apartment building, Parkview Residences, had once been grand but had fallen into genteel disrepair over the decades. Olivia had moved in 2 years ago after her divorce, attracted by the relatively affordable rent and the decent school district. The Parkview was actually just a small city square, but it had trees and a playground, which was enough for Lily. By the time they reached the 6th floor, Olivia was regretting her decision to wear heels to her morning job interview, an interview that had ended with a polite, "we'll call you," that she knew meant not a chance. She fumbled with her keys, balancing a grocery bag on her hip, when the door across the hall opened. "Need a hand with that?" Olivia turned to see her neighbor, James Harrington. At 38, he stood out in their building like an orchid in a field of daisies. Tall, with dark hair just beginning to silver at the temples and the kind of confidence that came from never having to worry about money. James had moved in 6 months ago, a fact that had caused endless speculation among the residents. Rumor had it that he was some hotshot architect whose marriage had imploded spectacularly, leading him to temporarily abandon his penthouse for more modest accommodations while the divorce finalized. Why he'd chosen Parkview was anyone's guess, though Mrs. Abernathy in 6C insisted it was because his grandmother had lived there in the 1960s. Whatever the reason, James kept to himself, polite but distant with his neighbors. This was actually the first time he'd initiated a conversation with Olivia beyond a passing hello. "We're okay. Thanks," Olivia replied automatically, finally getting her door open. "Hi, Mr. Harrington," Lily said brightly, ignoring her mother's attempt at a quick escape. "Did you know the elevator's broken again?" "I did notice that," James said with a smile that transformed his serious face. 6 flights of stairs is quite the workout. Mom said we'd have mac and cheese for dinner because of all the stairs. Do you like mac and cheese?" "Lily," Olivia murmured, embarrassed by her daughter's forwardness. "I love mac and cheese," James replied seriously, "especially with the crunchy stuff on top." Lily's eyes widened. "That's how we make it too." An awkward silence fell, broken by the sound of Olivia's grocery bag beginning to tear. James stepped forward quickly, catching the bottom before her oranges could roll down the hallway. "Let me help you get these inside," he said, taking the bag from her before she could protest. Too tired to argue, Olivia led the way into her apartment. She was acutely aware of how it must look to someone like James. The secondhand furniture, the walls that needed repainting, the general sense of a space that was clean and cared for but undeniably worn around the edges. "Just on the counter is fine," she said, gesturing to the small kitchen. "Thank you." James set the groceries down carefully. "No problem. I actually wanted to talk to you about something, if you have a minute." Olivia tensed slightly. In her experience, landlords and neighbors only wanted to talk when there was a problem. Had Lily been too noisy with her dance practice? Was he going to complain about the time she'd burned cookies and set off the smoke detector? "Sure," she said cautiously. "Lily, why don't you go start your homework? I'll call you when dinner's ready." Once Lily had disappeared into her bedroom, Olivia turned to James. "What can I help you with?" James looked uncharacteristically hesitant. "I have a somewhat unusual request. I understand if you say no." Olivia waited. Her curiosity piqued despite her wariness. "I'm hosting a charity gala for the Children's Hospital Foundation next month," he explained. "It's an annual event that my firm sponsors. I usually attend with, well, in the past, my wife accompanied me." "Oh," Olivia said, understanding dawning. "And now you need a date." James winced slightly at her bluntness. "Not exactly. I need a consultant." "A consultant?" Olivia repeated, confused. "The gala raises money for the pediatric oncology ward," James explained. "This year, we're focusing specifically on support programs for families. Things like housing assistance, transportation vouchers, childcare for siblings. The committee is full of well-meaning people with deep pockets, but very little understanding of what families actually need during a crisis." Olivia's confusion deepened. "I'm not following how this involves me." James ran a hand through his hair, a surprisingly human gesture from someone who usually seemed so composed. "Your resume fell out of your bag a few weeks ago in the lobby. I noticed before returning it to you that you used to be a social worker at Memorial Hospital." "You read my resume?" Olivia asked, unsure whether to be offended or flattered. "Not intentionally," James assured her quickly. "But yes, I saw enough to know you have exactly the expertise this project needs. The gala committee meets once a week leading up to the event, and I'd like you to attend as a consultant. Paid, of course." Olivia stared at him, trying to process this unexpected turn. "You want to hire me?" "Yes. Your insights would be invaluable. And you'd need to attend the gala itself to see the fundraising in action and help evaluate its effectiveness." The practical part of Olivia's brain immediately calculated what this might mean financially, especially after today's news about her reduced hours at the bookstore. But the suspicious part wondered why a millionaire architect would seek advice from his struggling neighbor. "Why me?" she asked directly. "Surely the hospital has current social workers you could consult." James nodded, acknowledging the fairness of her question. "They do, and we've spoken with them. But you have a unique perspective. You've been on both sides. You understand the system professionally, and—" He hesitated. "And I'm poor enough to know what it's really like to struggle," Olivia finished for him, a hint of defensiveness creeping into her voice. To her surprise, James didn't flinch from her directness. "Yes, that dual perspective is exactly what the project needs. Too often, these initiatives are designed by people who've never had to worry about gas money to get to a doctor's appointment or finding childcare during a medical emergency." His honesty disarmed her. Olivia had spent enough time in nonprofit work to know he was right. Well-intentioned programs often missed the mark because they were designed without input from the people they aimed to serve. "What exactly would this involve?" she asked, her practical side taking over. "One evening meeting per week for the next 4 weeks, plus the gala itself. I can pay you a consulting fee of $2,000, plus whatever you need for the gala. Appropriate attire, transportation, childcare for Lily." Olivia nearly choked. $2,000 would cover her car repairs with enough left over to build a small emergency fund, something she hadn't had since the divorce. "That's very generous," she said carefully. "It's the standard consulting rate for this type of project," James replied matter-of-factly. "Your expertise has value, Olivia." The way he said her name, as if he'd been waiting for an opportunity to use it, sent an unexpected shiver through her. Olivia pushed the feeling aside, focusing on the practical aspects of the offer. "When and where are these meetings?" "Wednesday evenings at the Meridian Hotel downtown. They start at 7 and usually run about 2 hours. Olivia did a quick mental calculation. Her friend Tanya could probably watch Lily, or maybe she could bring her along and let her do homework in a corner of the hotel lobby. And the gala? Saturday, May 15th, at the Grand Ballroom of the Meridian. It's a formal event, black tie. The thought of attending a black-tie gala was intimidating, but the consulting fee was too good to pass up. And if she was honest with herself, the opportunity to use her social work background again, to make a meaningful contribution to a cause she cared about, was even more appealing than the money. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll do it." James's smile was surprisingly warm. "Excellent. I'll email you the details tomorrow, if that works." They exchanged email addresses, and James thanked her again before leaving. As the door closed behind him, Olivia stood in her small kitchen, wondering what exactly she had just agreed to. "Is Mr. Harrington gone?" Lily asked, emerging from her room. "Did he want something important?" Olivia smiled at her daughter. "Actually, he offered me a job. A temporary one, helping with a charity project." "Cool. Does that mean we can fix the car?" "It might," Olivia said, pulling out the ingredients for mac and cheese. "It just might." The first committee meeting was more intimidating than Olivia had anticipated. The Meridian Hotel's conference room was filled with the kind of people she usually only saw in magazines. Women with perfect blowouts and designer outfits. Men in suits that cost more than her monthly rent. James, waiting for her in the lobby, had sensed her nervousness. "They don't bite," he assured her as they rode the elevator up. "Well, Victoria might, but she's all bark." "Victoria?" A shadow crossed his face. "My ex-wife. She's on the committee. Has been for years." Olivia stopped short. "You didn't mention that part. Would it have changed your decision?" "I don't know," she admitted. "But I should have been informed." James had the grace to look apologetic. "You're right. I'm sorry. If it helps, we're on civil terms." The divorce was finalized months ago. Before Olivia could respond, the elevator doors opened, and they were greeted by a tall, impeccably dressed blonde woman whose smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "James, darling, you're late," she said, air-kissing his cheek before turning her assessing gaze to Olivia. "And this must be your consultant." The slight pause before consultant spoke volumes. Olivia straightened her shoulders, grateful she'd worn her one good blazer over a simple black dress. "Olivia Bennett," she said, extending her hand. "Pleasure to meet you." "Victoria Harrington," the woman replied, her handshake brief and cool. "Still Harrington, at least until I decide if I want to keep it." This with a pointed look at James, who remained impassive. The meeting itself was eye-opening. The committee, composed primarily of wealthy donors and hospital board members, had elaborate plans for the gala but only vague ideas about the actual support programs they were funding. When James introduced Olivia and explained her background, she was met with polite but skeptical attention. "Ms. Bennett will be providing insights on the practical needs of families facing pediatric medical crises," James explained. "Her experience as both a social worker and a single parent gives her valuable perspective." Victoria, seated directly across from Olivia, raised a perfectly shaped eyebrow. "How fascinating. And how did you two connect? James has never mentioned you before." "We're neighbors," Olivia said simply, refusing to be intimidated. "Neighbors," Victoria repeated, as if the word tasted strange. "How convenient." James smoothly redirected the conversation to the agenda, but Olivia felt Victoria's calculating gaze on her throughout the meeting. When Olivia began sharing her thoughts on the proposed family support programs, pointing out gaps and suggesting more practical alternatives, she noticed a shift in the room. Several committee members began taking notes, asking thoughtful questions, genuinely engaging with her ideas. By the end of the meeting, even Victoria had grudgingly acknowledged the value of some of Olivia's suggestions, though her eyes remained cold whenever they landed on Olivia or James. As they left the hotel, James turned to Olivia with genuine admiration. "You were brilliant in there. You've given them more practical insight in 2 hours than they've had in the past 2 years." Olivia felt a flush of pride. It had been a long time since her professional expertise had been valued this way. "Thank you for the opportunity. It felt good to use that part of my brain again." "Would you have time for a coffee?" James asked. "I'd love to discuss some of your ideas further." Olivia hesitated, checking her watch. "I should get back to Lily. My friend Tanya is watching her, but she has an early shift tomorrow." "Of course," James said, hiding any disappointment well. "Same time next week?" "I'll be there," Olivia promised. "Though I might need to bring Lily if Tanya can't watch her." "Bring her," James said without hesitation. "The hotel has a business center where she could do homework. Or she could join the meeting. Might be good for the committee to see an actual child instead of just talking about abstract ones. Olivia laughed. You clearly don't know many 7-year-olds. Lily would have that committee wrapped around her finger in 5 minutes flat. Sounds like her mother, James said with a smile that made Olivia's heart skip in a way she immediately tried to ignore. Over the next 3 weeks, a routine developed. Olivia attended the Wednesday meetings, gradually earning the respect of most committee members with her practical insights and straightforward approach. Victoria remained coolly civil, her barbed comments becoming more subtle but no less pointed as she observed the growing rapport between James and Olivia. Because there was definitely a rapport developing, James began stopping by Olivia's apartment with questions about the project, often staying for dinner when Lily insisted. He brought takeout from restaurants Olivia could never afford, claiming he hated eating alone. He fixed the wobbly leg on Lily's bed and replaced the flickering light in their hallway, waving away Olivia's thanks as if it were nothing. Why does Mr. James come over so much? Lily asked one night as Olivia tucked her into bed. He's my colleague on this project, Olivia explained. We have work to discuss. Lily gave her mother a look of pure skepticism. He looks at you like Daddy used to, before he got mean. The observation, so innocent yet so perceptive, left Olivia speechless. Her ex-husband, Mark, had indeed looked at her with adoration once, before alcohol and resentment had twisted that love into something ugly. The divorce had been messy and painful, leaving Olivia with emotional scars that had yet to fully heal. Mr. James and I are just friends and colleagues, she said finally. Nothing more. But as the gala approached, Olivia found herself wondering if that was entirely true. There was something about James, his quiet intelligence, his unexpected kindness, the way he listened as if her words actually mattered, that was breaking through the careful walls she'd built around her heart. The night before the gala, James appeared at her door with a large box. What's this? Olivia asked, taking it from him. Your consultant wardrobe for tomorrow, he said. Part of the agreed compensation.